Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Afif Ahmed, and I'm on stage here today with Bipin Napani and Venki Krishnan.
Hi, everyone.
Today we're going to be talking about WhatsApp, about how to scale customer engagement on WhatsApp. So I'm going to be starting off today, and then I'm going to be passing off to these two gentlemen who will be going through some more of about our integration with AWS and about how you guys can actually get started with WhatsApp Business.
All right, cool.
Sounds good. We'll see you guys in a few minutes here. So business messaging is all about communication. Right? And communication between a customer and a business is nothing new. That's been going on for since all of history. Once upon a time, that was just face-to-face communication, right? And then over time, there became mail and phone and websites and apps. I can actually think of this exact same example with my hairstylist. Once upon a time, I had to call them to make an appointment. Then they finally made a website, not a great one, but I can make appointments there. They skipped the app section, but now I actually communicate with my hairstylist over WhatsApp. I make my appointments there. I can see how long it was since my last appointment was, so I can tell them, cut a lot of hair or not. I can see in one persistent thread if I liked or did not like a previous haircut with a picture. So it gives me kind of a rich way to interact with the business and for the business to interact with me because of that persistent thread. So business messaging, which is that, the era of communication that we're in, it really just enriches all of the previous methods that we had, largely because of that persistent thread, and that's going to be something that we talk about a lot today. The fact that you guys joined this session, probably you know that WhatsApp has a dominant position all around the world. 3 billion monthly active users, 600 million conversations between customers and businesses every single day. And even in the US, we have over 100 million monthly active users, and that number is rapidly growing, actually much faster than in much of the rest of the world where WhatsApp already has primacy as a communication channel. And so why are these numbers important? It's because if you are a business who wants to get in touch with your customers, you want to use the channel that they're already using. That's the way that you're going to get high read rates. That's the way you're going to get interaction. That's the way you're going to get customers to interact with and perhaps transact with your business. So for a business considering or thinking about how they can get in touch with a customer, we've put this flywheel up here, and it has a lot of words that actually remind me of my marketing class from business school. But you can see from awareness through discovery, consideration, purchase, post-purchase, and re-engagement, all of those sections of the customer life cycle, you can kind of think of broadly as how you do marketing, how you do sales, how you do follow-up with customers. And really, WhatsApp facilitates communication for any of those elements of the customer journey. Not only does WhatsApp facilitate those elements for kind of marketing or sales use cases, but it really facilitates use cases, other kinds of use cases where a business would want to get in touch with the customer. A few come to mind. Authentication messages. You can think of these as one-time passcodes. Utility messages. This is not necessarily to derive a sale or anything, but it might be a message that you have an appointment coming up or that your package is about to arrive. Those kinds of, and also, I forgot to mention customer service messages, where you might want to get in touch with the business yourself and ask a question about when something is going to arrive. All of these different types of communication lead to kind of a business being able to serve the entire journey of how a customer would want to interact with you. And notably, I think some marketers may think, well, why do I necessarily care about one-time passcodes or utility messages, right? I care about marketing messages and saying those to customers. But what we've actually seen through our businesses that use WhatsApp is that for businesses that employ multiple types of messages, that send utility messages and marketing messages, they then actually get higher read rates, higher action rates when they send marketing messages. Because as I mentioned in the example with with my hairstylist, there is one persistent thread, and that notion of a persistent thread builds trust with the customer. Once trust with the customer is established, then they are likely to look at, or consider whatever it is that you're sending over to them. WhatsApp has, as you can see, a pretty The metrics look great. It's a really engaging platform. 80% read rate, a click rate of 50%, and a conversion rate of 35% or 30%. The conversion rate, I should note, is actually sort of a customer action rate. So that could be, a conversion could be any number of things of whatever a business is wanting a customer to do. And because WhatsApp has this really deep, engaging platform, it's a compelling solution for businesses to try to get in touch with their customers. Now, if you're a business that's thinking about WhatsApp, of course, data privacy and security are going to be paramount, and they should be. Those are things that, the product teams that I work with, they're also constantly thinking about. You may know, especially if you're a consumer of WhatsApp, that we have end-to-end encryption on messages. But what you may not know is that we actually build in a lot of redundancy through our security protocols and our security procedures to ensure the utmost level of privacy for the messages being sent over WhatsApp between a business and between a client, or just between customers, for the consumer version of WhatsApp as well. Now, of course, we couldn't be at reInvented 2025 and not mention AI at all. But WhatsApp is really an ideal channel for AI-enabled conversations. And I'd say there's 3 reasons why that are illuminated on this slide here. One is the widespread usage. You saw this on an earlier slide, but with 3 billion monthly active users, this is the way that you as a business can get in touch with your customers at scale. The second is our rich features. So again, if you're a user of WhatsApp, you may have seen some of these like click to action buttons, or you may have seen a PDF that was attached by a business. These are the kinds of rich features that an AI agent on WhatsApp could also utilize. And finally, we have a rich partner ecosystem. There are many partners today that are already using AI agents on WhatsApp. And this is the way, if you are a business that's following that flywheel I showed on the previous slide of the multiple ways in which a business can get in touch with the customer, you need to be able to do that at scale, and an AI agent would be a way to be able to do that. So now I want to talk a little bit about the different kinds of messages that WhatsApp facilitates. And again, this is really important because, as I mentioned before, the more variety of message types that a business employs with getting in touch with a customer, the more that relationship is formed with the customer, and the more they're likely to take action, including with marketing messages. But let me start from the left there. So on the left, you see service messages. These ones are user-initiated messages. So I gave the example before where you might get in touch and say, hey, I need to rebook my flight, or my package didn't arrive. Then the 3 message types at the right are all business-initiated conversations. So that second one is utility conversations. Utility conversations are transactional messages. So you can think of these as your package has arrived, or you have an appointment coming up tomorrow. Moving on from that, you'll see marketing messages. Marketing messages is, it's kind of the bread and butter of, Meta, given that we were an ads business and are moving on from that. But marketing messages are kind of any kind of a promotion or an offer that would be served to a customer. And finally, the last one is authentication messages. Authentication messages, as I mentioned before, are one-time passcodes, but those one-time passcodes can serve a number of use cases. So now we're going to do a bit of a deep dive into each one of those business-initiated conversation types that I mentioned before. First, utility messages. So utility messages can serve multiple use cases. They can be for order management. They can be for payment alerts, for appointment reminders, or fraud alerts. And as you can see from the images here, with this kind of like the rich imaging, the ability to have attachments within the thread, it's a way for a customer to be really engaged with and to develop trust in you as a business interacting with them. Here's a comparison specifically for utility messages of WhatsApp against other communication channels, notably RCS and SMS. I think a couple things to highlight here is that WhatsApp supports rich media with it has longer character counts, and the end-to-end encryption that is fundamental to WhatsApp. Now let's move on to marketing messages. So before we kind of go into that deep detail of what marketing of how marketing messages work. What are marketing messages? They're the way in which a business can get in touch with and develop a rapport with a customer. Notably, that customer needs to be opted in. So this is a little bit different from ads where a customer does not have to consent to be served an ad, but for a marketing message, they do have to consent. And because they have to consent, you can imagine that there is a high likelihood that that customer will want to interact with the marketing message, be it a promotion, be it a sale, be it a abandoned shopping cart message that you would send to that customer. Now, previously, the marketing messages that were sent over WhatsApp were just kind of blunt, templated marketing messages that were sent to a customer. And if a certain number of messages were sent, then our API might say, okay, don't send any more messages to that customer. They've already received too many today. What it did not take into account, however, was the likelihood that that customer may want to interact with the message. And so now we've actually very recently introduced optimizations in our marketing messages. These are the same kinds of optimizations that we have for our ads engine as well. And so what's happening here is we're actually taking into consideration the likelihood that you will open a message or read that message at the specific time that that message would be sent to you. And so a decision is made whether to send that message to that person or to send it to somebody else who has a higher likelihood of actually looking at that marketing message. And we've seen although this is a pretty new feature, we've seen promising results. There was a study done in India, and for those of you who've spent time in India, it's actually very common to send marketing messages over WhatsApp there. And we've seen up to a 9% higher delivery rate of those marketing messages. And again, there's a higher delivery rate because we're not hitting that blunt cap of, hey, too many messages sent, don't send it to that person. Instead, we're sending the messages in the first place to the individuals that we think will interact with that message and would want to read it. Now, the next message type that I'll talk about are authentication messages. Authentication messages could serve multiple use cases. They're all one-time passcode type messages, but those one-time passcodes could serve different use cases. You could think of new account creation. You can think of account recovery, new transactions, or even for an existing transaction. Actually, I was in the UK before, and for my orders that came via Deliveroo, the WhatsApp code came, the one-time passcode came via WhatsApp as well. So here again is a comparison of WhatsApp versus RCS and SMS, specifically for authentication messages. With WhatsApp, you're able to have that single thread. You can do copy and code, and there's autofill features, which are really helpful for one-time passcodes. There's no app switching necessary. And true to what WhatsApp is, there's very low latency and high reliability in those messages being sent, which, if you're sending a one-time passcode or a utility message, it's really important that those messages arrive to your customer and arrive to your customer at the time that you intend to send them to them. Now, I've talked to you all quite a bit about what WhatsApp is and the different kind of message types. We have a native integration with AWS as well. And so for those of you that are existing AWS customers, it's very easy to get set up. And Venki is going to come up here and talk about AWS end user messaging, which is the service that WhatsApp is integrated with.
So as a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with AWS end user messaging at all? All right, so I see a few hands up there. So just to let you know, there are two major communication services APIs that are available on AWS today. One is called as Amazon Simple Email Service, and the other one is AWS End User Messaging. And AWS End User Messaging is predominantly used for multi-channel communications across SMS, push notifications, and now WhatsApp. The biggest advantage of that is that it actually provides a way for you to actually take applications that you build on AWS and allows you to actually use these APIs to actually build native integration. So using a single API stack along with your application code bases that you're building in and leveraging the rest of the AWS services, you're now able to deliver messaging. And one of the reasons we actually extended this for WhatsApp is really from an ask from our customers around, hey, this is another major channel of communications that we have. So customers of all types are looking at three different ways of considering messaging. One is, do I have a dedicated cohort that I can actually reach on one particular channel? More importantly, am I able to deliver the kind of fidelity that I need in my messaging, which is, am I able to deliver rich communications? And more importantly, for many parts of the globe, how is the best way to actually reach customers as I need them in different markets around the world? So that's one of the reasons we actually put AWS end-user messaging out there. Why is this relevant for WhatsApp is that in your application stack itself, you now have the ability to manage various types of interactions that make it rich. But at the same time, you now have the ability to actually drive that reach across. So using a single WhatsApp number, I can reach customers all over the globe. I have that kind of capability. Whereas with SMS, I have to provision things like SMS long codes and short codes that actually take time to provision in many markets. So that actually is a big reason why WhatsApp becomes a very big channel. The other thing is that I have various types of restrictions on channels like SMS. I can send only certain types of content on certain types of numbers. WhatsApp gives me this high fidelity where I can take, as Afif pointed out, various types of messages, right? So that gives me a single threaded conversation view that I can actually take those encrypted communications end to end, actually feed them into the rest of my customer service capabilities. So now I can actually do certain interesting stuff with us that gives me forward-thinking capability and future-proof my customer engagement strategy. One of the other advantages of doing these things is the fact that I'm able to leverage the same IAM security policies that I need. I'm able to take advantage of whatever application API security policies that I've set, and those are now going to be applied for my messaging infrastructure and my messaging capabilities. And I'm able to take those deliverability metrics that are coming across these channels like WhatsApp and actually feed them into a single infrastructure for me to be able to react to them. I don't know if it'll just go on to the next slide. Okay. So what does that mean, right? So we have right now today a lot of capabilities that we have built with open source out there that you can actually take on GitHub, where you can actually take conversations and extend those conversations, where I can create agentic AI capabilities. So I might be able to create agents on WhatsApp that can actually help answer specific questions, thereby actually relieving the call center of actually having those conversations. More importantly, it reacts and builds a lot more trust on the channel. But most importantly, for brands that are looking to build relevance with customers, this becomes a very important channel, because one of the most important things that you'll realize about WhatsApp is that it's a very trust-earned channel for customers, meaning they can just block you. And if they block you, then you can't send any messages to them, any type of messages to them. So it's a very trust-based channel, and I think it bleeds in very much into the AWS holistic philosophy of being able to build secure communications across the stack. As far as how to actually put this together, I'm going to invite Bipin to actually come and share with you about how you would integrate this into your applications. Thanks, Bipin.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Afif. Thanks, Venki. I get to do the more exciting part. This is where, you got to the whole frame of, why WhatsApp, why this channel is so important. You touched on many areas of that. You also kind of, in my frame of thought, I always think of the who, what, whys, or what, so what, and next what, right? This is the most interesting part. How do we put this together? And I get to talk about that. At the same time, I'm not going to do any code walkthroughs, not writing any code, and you'll still walk out thinking like how you could do this in 10 minutes by yourself with no code, and thanks for the integration we have in place. So if you guys are familiar with the AWS ecosystem in general, like the AWS console itself, what you have is you have WhatsApp as an integrated channel as part of your AWS end user messaging product. So when you open AWS, and if you're thinking about how do I put this integration together, you simply use the AWS end user messaging console. You have a social messaging service in that. You just select that. Once you enter that, there's a whole embedded sign-up process in that. Without leaving the ecosystem, you're now pretty much a wizard-driven process that will walk you through, like either you have a Facebook account. If yes, you are simply auth yourself into that. You got your Facebook account connected. You have your business manager accounts in Facebook. You can select one or you can set one up. The process is again all within this wizard. You now have your WhatsApp business account, you have one or you set one up. All of this happens right in the end user messaging console through the social messaging service. Once you have all of this set up, once you confirm all of this, and trust me, like this is a part which is actually the most complex step, but it takes probably 5 minutes and 10 for some. But depending on if you're setting something up very new or you're just connecting your existing accounts. And this is where you get provisioned with a phone number, you get provisioned with like the entire authentication service with the social messaging component of WhatsApp and within the end user messaging service. You're basically verifying your number, which is also pretty straightforward. You are provisioned through the end user messaging API now, and this is a point where you pretty much have your plumbing in place. You got AWS and WhatsApp talking to each other now. And this is where now you get to the programmatic aspect of it. Depending on your business use case flows, you could pretty much connect with Amazon SNS or Amazon Connect. These are the two services you can easily connect and configure, and you can pretty much have an event-driven automation or using AWS Lambda to trigger messages based on real-time events from your application or other trigger points, and directly with the agent console on Amazon Connect. Go either ways. Again, this is like, think of it as like the Lego blocks are in place, and you could construct, orchestrate your use case flow the way you might imagine. But you got two big ecosystems and platforms already connected and talking to each other. Now, this is where I want to make sure like you guys understand, like it's not about just the construct of enabling your use case, but which is good, but now you also have right out of the box is all of the analytics, the observability, the ability to learn about your message, and all of those things once your WhatsApp account and the event messages flow through. You can actually automatically start scaling this because again, you don't have to worry about the infra behind all of this. You can just start scaling your real world use cases right away once this integration is in place. What it also allows you to do is like send automation, like as Afif I think already touched upon some very nice use cases where you could send real-time updates about your orders as soon as a e-commerce event happens, or let's say a cancellation happens or a scheduling, the update happens. You can route almost some of these things. Again, the reason I brought up AWS Lambda and SNS is like you could pretty much have your own orchestration of this, if this, then that. And WhatsApp is nothing but an event point or a channel that you may think that can be triggered by one of these events when they satisfy the conditions. And you can track the whole performance of this entire orchestration, which is your AWS console now allows you to get insights on your entire message payload, the entire message journey through its life cycle, the number of messages that are sent, the number of templates you're working with, the tags, and whatnot thereof. Like, so you have down the grain auditability of all of your messages that are happening through this implementation now. At this point, I want to pass on to Afif to walk you through some case studies.
Thank you so much, Bipin. So, I mentioned earlier on that there are 600 million daily interactions between businesses and customers on WhatsApp already. So I wanted to illustrate a couple of those case studies so you guys can see how our business is taking advantage of WhatsApp. So the first example here is a hospital network in Indonesia called Siloam Hospitals. In Indonesia, WhatsApp is it's kind of the communication protocol that most people use already, for consumer communication. So it really made sense for a business, in this case a healthcare business, to try to get in touch with their customers in that same channel that they're already using. Prior to using WhatsApp, Siloam, for all communications with their customers, whether it was to remind them about appointment, whether it was to schedule appointment, they were doing it largely through email and calls. But they realized that they weren't doing it in the most efficient way. And so they actually moved all of their communication all of their customer communication over to WhatsApp, and they saw some really great results out of this. They saw an 8% increase in appointment bookings after launching automated messaging. They saw, really notably, a 36% increase in self-patient check-ins, because the prompts were sent in WhatsApp saying, hey, you've got an appointment coming up tomorrow, fill out this paperwork before your appointment. As you can imagine, this saved significant resources and time of people being at that, being at the hospital and not needing to fill out paperwork there. And finally, when customer service inquiries came through, previously they were taking a week for all of those inquiries to be tackled. After implementing WhatsApp for all of their communication with customers, 80% of cases were actually able to be dealt with within 24 hours. And so in this instance, Siloam Hospitals, they did this largely through utility messages, but also marketing messages as well. One other case study I wanted to highlight. This is a Brazilian digital bank called PicPay. So as a digital bank with no physical footprint, it was really important for PicPay to be able to do the customer onboarding and the security verification of that individual digitally. And so the issue that PicPay had was previously they were doing this over SMS, and they found that a lot of customers were not completing the onboarding, and so they wanted to move that over to WhatsApp. They started servicing the OTP passcodes through WhatsApp, and they saw a 3.5% increase in customers onboarding, and then also a 6.5% increase in verification rates. So this is, another illustration of a totally different use case from Siloam Hospitals. And here they were using a different message type as well. They were using authentication messages exclusively, whereas in the previous example, I was showing largely utility messages, but there were some marketing messages from Siloam. If you remember from when I was speaking earlier, the businesses that see the best value out of their investment in WhatsApp are those that use multiple message types. You can imagine that in the example with Siloam, because they were getting appointment reminders, if there was then a marketing message, I'll make like an American example of it, hey, it's December, have you used all of your healthcare benefits, right? Someone is more likely to interact with that message when they've received messages before that remind them about what their appointment reminders. So, to sum up here, I hope that you all have learned a lot about the different messaging types that WhatsApp employs and how that can enable a business to get in touch with the customer through any element, and in fact, every element of the customer journey. And in fact, WhatsApp, I would say, enriches each of those elements of the customer journey as well. My call to action to you all is pretty simple, actually. Get started with WhatsApp Business. If you're a business that's thinking about how you can get in touch with customers in a different way, try it out. As Bipin and Venki talked about, we have a native integration with AWS. So if you're an existing AWS customer, you literally just need to go to the console. You can get set up within about 10 or 15 minutes and have your WhatsApp Business account provisioned directly within the AWS console. Additionally, for anyone that wants to learn more, we have a booth, the booth 875, and you can go down there and there's some touch screens where you can play around with those different message types. Again, the marketing, utility, authentication, and service messages, so you could see what a message flow would look like with businesses. And in addition, we have more case studies there for you to learn about it. So with that, thank you all so much for your time. I hope this was beneficial for you all, and I hope to see you guys using WhatsApp Business.